Hello, my dear ones. We keep getting questions about ourselves recently. Questions about, well, where do you actually live? And do you function with the blessing of a bishop? And are you Catholic? Are you Orthodox? Are you a men's monastery, a women's monastery? All sorts of genuine questions that are perfectly reasonable to ask, and they come from those amongst you who have only recently discovered our monasteries and this channel. So I think we owe it to you, and in a sense we owe it to ourselves, to dedicate a video from time to time simply to update you with what has happened on Mull and Iona and how our monasteries are doing. Some of these things may be new to you, or they may be old news in case you've been one of our supporters from the very, very beginning. If that's the case, I apologize, but it is important for all of us to know what on earth we are watching and who on earth we are supporting. I'm not going to present you with a historical background of our monasteries, because we've done this in the past. So I think if you go and you look at our older videos, you'll find bits and pieces here and there. But I'll try to treat you as one of our pilgrims. So for example, if you were to join one of our pilgrimages next year in the summer of 2025, this is what you would see. There are currently two separate monasteries in the Isles. There is a women's monastery on the Isle of Mull, where our mothers live, and there is a men's monastery on the Isle of Iona, where myself and our brothers live. We all function with the blessing and under the jurisdiction of Metropolitan Joseph, who is the Metropolitan for the south and west of Europe in the Orthodox Church in Romania. So jurisdictionally, this is our pedigree. And that has happened not because we randomly chose to be under the Romanian Patriarchate. It happened simply because, as the founder of these monasteries, I am Romanian. So when I initially came to the UK simply to study. So I was still under the obedience and jurisdiction of my Metropolitan, my Archbishop in Romania. When the time came for me to transfer over here in the UK, I naturally and canonically transferred from under the jurisdiction of my Archbishop in Moldavia, which is part of Romania, to the authority of the Romanian Metropolitan in the west of Europe. So this is canonically who we are. In practice, I've lived and I've worked for these monasteries by myself since 2010 until I think 2019, something like that, 2019, 2020. That was my alone period. But immediately after that, both mothers and fathers have started joining the community. So we became a mixed community, and we stayed as a mixed community for about 2 years and a half. When there were enough of us to be able to function as two different communities, God stepped in, and about 2 years ago, He allowed us to be able to purchase a property on the Isle of Iona. So at the right time, in terms of how many of the numbers, God also provided us with the means to split the community, which we have done. So 2 years ago, this split happened. And since then we've been functioning as two different monasteries, but we still think of ourselves and we still pray as if we were one community, kind of just spread out in these two different monasteries. Mothers on the Isle of Mull have the blessing of being organized and living their lives around Kilninian, which is the oldest Christian site in all the Hebrides. It is the only site connected to Saint Ninian, who's one of the earliest Scottish saints, or what we'll call Scottish saints nowadays. He lived and was active in this area in late 300s, early 400s. So about a century and a half before Saint Brendan or Saint Columba came to Iona and the islands. Apart from Kilninian, they also have two small cottages where they live and where they work, and they've had this amazing, unique blessing of having the church consecrated in the summer. So all the photographs that I shared with you from the consecration, they actually apply to the church where mothers live, Kilninian. They now have their own abbess, our mother nun Ita, named after the wonderful Irish saint, Saint Ita, Saint Brendan's foster mother. And they have a beautiful garden where they spend a lot of time working. They are also the ones in charge of our online store. So if you ever purchase anything from our online shop, they are the ones that have to pack them and send them, and they are the ones that will be in communication with you concerning your orders. What we miss, what we lack right now on the Isle of Mull is a pilgrimage house. By the immense blessing and generosity of God, we do have a house we can use. We've been given permission to use the house of one of our founders, but that is not and cannot be a permanent solution for the monastery. Sooner or later, we are going to need something that is within the property of the monastery, so you know that you can continue to offer hospitality and continue to welcome people regardless of what might happen in the future. The other thing that is kind of in the background of my mind concerning Mother's Monastery on Mull is the fact that we only have one spare room between these two cottages. So at least in theory we can receive one, at the most two new novices in Mother's community. And when that's going to happen, I pray that God will give us the opportunity and also the financial means to be able to purchase a third small cottage so that the community can grow. Those of you who've been on pilgrimage with us to Moldavia, if you remember those two beautiful monasteries, Varatek and Agapia, and if you've not been on pilgrimage with us to Moldavia, make sure you come next year. It is absolutely amazing, and it will present you with every single type of monastic life, from hermit life to cenobitical life and semi-cenobitical life, and it's just beyond what I can describe to you. But these two monasteries, Varatek and Agapia, they function as, how do I explain this to someone who's never seen it? If you can imagine a village, a simple village with 200 or 300 houses, only that every single house in that village is lived in by nuns. That's the way these monasteries are organized. They function as their own village with their own shops and their own postal office, and they have 3 or 4 churches, because they are in some, I think Agapia has between 600 and 800 nuns. It keeps varying, and it depends how you count them, if you include the novices or if you don't include the novices. The reason I'm telling you about these two monasteries is that living where we live in these islands, it would be very difficult for us to build a large monastery, the sort that most of us would be familiar with. It would be difficult, it would be expensive, it would be a waste of your funds, but at the same time it would also be out of character with the land, with the history of this place. So because God has blessed me to see in life applied this in-between type of monastic life, between being a hermitage and between being a large monastery with dozens or hundreds of monastics, there is this in-between type of monastic life where you simply expand by adding another property until you have this small community, this small local community united around an abbess and around a church, a central church. Because God has blessed me to see that, I have full confidence and peace in my heart that this is the way forward for both monasteries. All of that to say that in the future, as far as I can tell, the priorities for Mother's Monastery on Mull will be 1, a pilgrimage house which belongs to the monastery, so we do not have to have a constant worry regarding the future and our future ability to offer you hospitality. And 2, as the community grows, to be able to identify and then with your support and by the grace of God to be able to purchase a 3rd small cottage for 3 or 4 more sisters to join us. Moving from Mull to Iona, and mind you, this is not a simple move. We are talking about 2 different islands here. So the Isle of Mull and the Isle of Iona are, for those of you who've never been here, 2 different islands. You do need to take the ferry between the 2 of them, and it takes about 2 hours and a half in total of driving and then taking a ferry to get from one monastery to the other. So although you may think of us as being together, we are actually 2 hours and a half apart from each other. But we have enough love and enough prayer and enough history by now uniting us to still think and feel and pray as one community. Moving to Iona now, about 2 years ago, we managed to purchase a property, Iona Cottage on the Isle of Iona, and myself and the brothers moved here. And for a year or so, we were in and out of that property because it required some work. The heating system required work, a lot of work that was put into that property, so it's now as comfortable and as safe to live in as you'll see it. That property is now where we welcome most of our pilgrims. In the meantime, by the grace of God, we've managed to purchase a 2nd property on the Isle of Iona. It's a property further away from where the ferry lands, so further away from the hustle and bustle of Iona. And when I say hustle and bustle, do not imagine Manhattan, but it is a bit noisy for a monastic community. So now we have 2 properties on Iona as well. One which is used by our brothers, by the actual community, and the other one which is in use for mostly welcoming our pilgrims in the summer. We have a small private chapel on Iona. It is a private chapel. It is not like Kilninian, open to everyone. It's only in use by the community and by our pilgrims. And we have a garden here as well, by the grace of God, and we have a greenhouse here, and we have a beehive, soon to be expanded into 2 beehives, and a small pottery studio. We have enough physical, hands-on work to keep us busy. And the priority for the monastery on Iona, the priorities for us, will be in a sense similar to those on Mull. On the one hand, we always have to keep in mind that the community may grow, and that if the community does grow, you will need more accommodation space for our brothers. And secondly, we do need at some point to have a proper chapel, a chapel that we can open to everyone, an Orthodox temple that would be open all the time for all the pilgrims, all the tourists to come in and see the beauty of our church. But I have now 15 years of experience of trying very, very, very hard and working very, very, very hard to get these things done. And if I've learned anything, is that all I have to do is wait and pray while constantly working and praying that I'm able to recognize whatever open doors or open windows God creates for us. In other words, things will happen when God blesses them to happen. Our duty is to, one, be prepared when they happen, and two, have the clarity and the discernment to recognize an opportunity as a blessed opportunity from God, not something that's coming out of my own or our own volition, our own imagination. I don't know what else I should share with you concerning our community. I just pray that whenever it is possible, you will come and be with us so you can pray with us. Our summer pilgrims who are joining us for our week-long pilgrimages, which by the way are one of our main sources of income. So when you come on these pilgrimages, you're not just being a pilgrim, you are being a very active and involved supporter of two monastic communities, two monasteries in these islands. Our pilgrims who are joining us, they get to meet everyone because they spend half of their time with us on the Isle of Mull with mothers. And mothers take them around and show them the holy sites of Mull. And then they come to Iona and they spend the remaining time with us. And then we, brothers, take them in our care and we show them around, and they get to know us. And in a sense, by the time they leave, they've seen both islands, both monasteries, and they've interacted with the one community that we strive to be. I pray this answers most of your questions, but if not, please don't be shy. Just ask any questions that you may have, and if I see them and if I have an answer, I will answer in the comment section. And if not, in a year's time, if God blesses that we should still be alive in a year's time, we'll do something similar again, updating you with whatever has happened in the meantime at the monastery. God bless you, my beloved ones, wherever you are. Amen, amen, amen.